America has a reputation for being expensive, and let's be real, in many ways it is. Healthcare, college, housing in big cities. We've already talked about how those can drain your wallet faster than a Vegas casino. But here's the twist. Not everything in the U.S. comes with a scary price tag. In fact, some everyday things here are so cheap, they leave foreigners completely stunned. We're talking about stuff that in other countries costs an arm and a leg, but in America feels almost ridiculously affordable. The kind of things where visitors say, wait, that's all it costs? And Americans shrug like it's no big deal. From endless refills at restaurants to gas prices that make Europeans jealous, the US has its fair share of bargains hiding in plain sight. And that's what we're breaking down today on the things that are shockingly cheap in America. We'll look at the everyday items and experiences that make people do a double take, from fast food meals to clothing deals, and even some unexpected services. Now, of course, cheap doesn't always mean high quality. Sometimes it's a deal, sometimes it's a shortcut, and sometimes it's just America's obsession with doing everything bigger, faster, and cheaper. But whether you love it or side-eye it, these low prices are part of what makes American culture so unique. So buckle up, because while you might complain about rent or healthcare in the US here, these 5 things will make you realize that America can still surprise you in a good way. And trust me, the last one on this list is so cheap, it feels almost illegal. If there's one thing foreigners can't wrap their heads around, it's just how cheap fast food is in America. You can walk into McDonald's, Taco Bell, or Wendy's with a crumpled $5 bill and walk out with enough calories to fuel a small army. Let's start with the infamous dollar menu. Sure, inflation has pushed some items above a buck, but you can still get burgers, tacos, fries, or even a drink for pocket change. Compare that to Europe, where a basic McDonald's meal might set you back $10 or $15. In the US, you can feed a family of 4 for that price if you stick to the value menu. And it's not just McDonald's. Chains like Taco Bell practically give food away. Where else in the world can you get a burrito for under $2? Add in endless promotions, combos, and late-night deals, and suddenly fast food becomes the cheapest way to fill up. Foreigners are often shocked by portion sizes too. A small drink in America looks like a large anywhere else. And don't even get me started on the refills. Bottomless soda is basically an American birthright. You pay once and the restaurant just keeps topping you up like you're in some kind of fizzy drink paradise. Of course, cheap doesn't always mean healthy. The reason fast food is so inexpensive is mass production, subsidies, and a focus on volume over quality. But if you're broke in a rush or just craving something greasy, America's fast food culture is unmatched for affordability. It's the one place where a few coins can still get you a full meal, even if it comes with a side of regret later. And if you think fast food is cheap, wait until you see the next item. Because in America, even clothes, especially branded ones, can cost way less than you'd expect. If fast food is America's cheap fuel, then clothing is its cheap armor. One of the biggest shocks for foreigners is just how affordable clothes are in the US, even when it comes to big-name brands. Walk into a store like Walmart, Target, or Old Navy, and you'll find t-shirts for $5, jeans for $15, and shoes that cost less than dinner at a mid-range restaurant. And that's just everyday basics. Want name brands? Head to outlets like Nike, Adidas, or Levi's, and you'll often score deals that make visitors from Europe or Asia jealous. A pair of Levi's in the US might cost $40. In some other countries, the exact same jeans can be double or even triple that price. And then there are discount chains like TJ Maxx, Ross, or Marshalls. These stores are like treasure hunts, selling leftover or overstocked items from high-end brands at shockingly low prices. You can walk out wearing Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, or Michael Kors, all for under $50. Why is it so cheap? A lot comes down to mass production and the sheer size of the US retail market. American consumers love variety and sales, so stores move insane amounts of inventory. Plus, with global shipping and constant markdowns, brands would rather sell clothes cheaply than not at all. Foreigners are often stunned by 2 things: how low the prices are and how often sales happen. In the US, as 50% off isn't special. Well, it's normal. Black Friday, back-to-school sales, clearance events. It feels like every week there's a new reason to slash prices. Of course, the downside is that cheap often means fast fashion, which isn't great for the environment. But for the average shopper, America is one of the easiest places to refresh your wardrobe without emptying your wallet. And if you think cheap clothes are impressive, wait until you hear about this next one. Because in the US, there's something else that comes with a surprisingly tiny price tag: gas. Ask any European visiting America what shocks them the most, and they'll probably say, gas is insanely cheap here. While Americans love to complain when prices rise, foreigners are often laughing in disbelief, because even at its expensive point, US, gas is still a bargain compared to much of the world. To put it in perspective, the average price of gas in the US often hovers around $3 to $4 per gallon. In many European countries, that same gallon, once you convert from liters, can cost $7, $8, or even more. No wonder renting a car in America feels like a steal for tourists. They can drive for hours and still spend less than they would on a short trip back home. Part of the reason is that the US is one of the largest oil producers in the world, and it also heavily subsidizes fuel. Combine that with massive highways and a car-dependent culture, and keeping gas affordable becomes a political necessity. If gas prices ever hit European levels here, there'd probably be riots in the streets. Now, to be fair, Americans do use more gas because of longer commutes and fewer public transportation options. But even so, the price difference is staggering. It's why road trips are such a big part of US culture. Filling up your tank doesn't feel like a luxury, it feels accessible. Of course, when prices spike, Americans panic. But compared to the rest of the world, they're still getting a deal. That's why foreigners look at Americans grumbling at the pump and think, you don't even know how good you have it. And while cheap gas fuels America's love of cars, the next bargain item fuels something else entirely. Caffeine. Because coffee in the US, especially refills, is so cheap it feels almost like a scam. If you want to understand American culture in one simple experience, walk into a diner, order a coffee, and watch what happens. The server pours your cup, and before you're even halfway done, they're back with a pot asking, want a refill? Here's the catch. It's free. That's right. In America, bottomless coffee refills are practically a national right. You pay once, maybe $2 or $3, and you can drink cup after cup until your hands are shaking like you've had a week's worth of caffeine in one sitting. Foreigners are blown away by this. In most countries, every single cup of coffee comes with a separate charge. Order 2 cups in Europe and you're paying double. In America, they just keep topping you up like your happiness depends on it. And it's not just diners. Many fast food chains and casual restaurants offer the same endless refill policy for soda too. Pay once, drink forever. Of course, it's not artisanal espresso or fancy lattes. We're talking about classic drip coffee. Simple, strong, and endlessly flowing. But for the price, it's unbeatable. For less than the cost of a croissant in Paris, you can caffeinate yourself into another dimension. And it doesn't stop with coffee. Soft drinks often follow the same logic. Buy a Coke at a fast food place and you can refill it as many times as you want. For foreigners, this feels like cheating the system. For Americans, it's just Tuesday. It's one of those little quirks of American life that feels normal to locals but magical to visitors. Endless caffeine, bottomless soda, and a sense that you're somehow winning every time your cup is refilled. But as cheap as coffee is, there's something even bigger that shocks outsiders. Because in America, shopping isn't just convenient. It's ridiculously cheap if you buy in bulk. If there's one thing America does bigger and cheaper than almost anywhere else, it's bulk shopping. Walk into a Costco, Sam's Club, or even Walmart, and you'll immediately see why foreigners either laugh or cry at the prices. Where else can you buy a 5-pound tub of peanut butter, a gallon of ketchup, or a 48-pack of toilet paper? All for what feels like pocket change. Costco especially has become legendary. For the price of a yearly membership, you get access to bulk deals that can slash your grocery bill in half. Need cheese? Here's a block the size of a brick for under $10. Want frozen pizzas? You're getting a dozen for the cost of 2 in Europe. Even electronics, furniture, and clothes often come at bargain prices. And it's not just about size, it's about cost per unit. When you break it down, buying in bulk in the US makes individual items ridiculously cheap compared to other countries. That's why you'll see families loading their carts like they're prepping for the apocalypse. Foreigners are often stunned by both the variety and the low costs. In many countries, smaller shops mean higher prices. In America, the opposite is true. Bigger stores, bigger quantities, smaller price tags. It's the land of why buy one when you can buy 30 for half the price per unit. Of course, the downside is storage. Not everyone has space for a gallon of mayonnaise in their fridge. And sometimes buying in bulk leads to waste if you can't actually finish it all. But for many Americans, the savings are worth it. And it's why bulk shopping feels less like a luxury and more like a survival strategy. So yeah, America might have shockingly expensive healthcare and education, but when it comes to snacks, soda, and giant tubs of peanut butter, it's a bargain hunter's paradise. So there you have it. 5 things that are shockingly cheap in America. From dollar menu fast food that somehow still exists, to clothing deals that make brand names feel like thrift finds, to gas prices that leave Europeans stunned, to endless coffee refills that feel almost illegal, and finally, bulk shopping that turns grocery runs into warehouse adventures. What's funny is how normal all of this feels to Americans. Ask someone in the US about $2 tacos, $40 Levi's, or free soda refills, and they'll just shrug like it's everyday life. But for visitors from abroad, these things are jaw-dropping. It's one of those cultural quirks that makes America fascinating. Expensive in some of the most unexpected ways, but also dirt cheap in others. Of course, cheap doesn't always mean high quality. Fast food might be affordable, but it won't win you any health awards. Clothing deals often come from fast fashion, and bulk shopping can turn into waste if you don't actually need 48 rolls of paper towels. Still, the affordability is undeniable, and it's part of why American consumer culture feels so unique. The bigger picture, America is full of contradictions. The same country where healthcare can cost you a fortune is also the place where you can drink unlimited coffee refills for $2. It's confusing, frustrating, and kind of hilarious all at once. Now I want to hear from you. If you visited America, what would shock you the most? The endless refills, the cheap gas, or the mountain-sized carts rolling out of Costco? Or maybe you're American and you've seen foreigners react to these prices. What surprised them the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear which of these cheap quirks you'd take advantage of first.